So, welcome to my gaming campfire. This is going to be my solo podcast or ranting room or soapbox or whatever you want to call it. But this is kind of like no scripts, just a few little notes and just me talking about games industry stuff and what's been going on in the world of gaming and that kind of thing. And we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping at some point to maybe get a few more people on here, maybe make it more like a podcast. But yeah, well, let's see how we go. I'd love it if people would engage in the comments and maybe, comment on topics that I've covered and we can get a conversation going there. I would absolutely love that. But yeah, let's crack on. So before we get started, I just want to talk about the channel itself. And yeah, it's grown really well. The videos, some of them are doing really well. Some of them I think they're going to do well and then they don't. They just get 2 or 3 likes and a couple of views. And then some of them, like the Crimson Desert review, just absolutely blow up and go crazy. So it's hard to know which direction to go in really in terms of what content to cover. I do want to cover a mix of content at the moment. So maybe some new games. I can't cover all the new games because it gets quite expensive. But I also have to consider that I don't get review copies at the moment. So if I review a new game, I have to accept that everyone else and their mothers out there with a review before me. And as you know, there's a golden couple of hours. And once you are not in that bracket, a lot of people just don't care. They've seen reviews from other places and you're kind of irrelevant. So people who want to watch my review of that game, they have to be interested in what I in particular have to say about it. And at the moment, my voice is so limited, I can't really rely on that. But hopefully the subscriber numbers will go up and that'll improve and maybe I'll start getting review copies. I'm not particularly going to be seeking review copies unless somebody offers me one because I don't like the whole system. I accept that's part of the games industry and if one person does it then everyone has to do it. Otherwise, like I said, you don't have any relevance really unless you're reviewing older games. And that leads me to my second part of the content. I want to cover older games that I feel like some people may not have played. It's amazing that a lot of people I speak to may never have played Half-Life 2 or the original Deus Ex or any of the games of that era that are absolutely amazing, but people just don't know they exist. And so if I cover them on my channel, maybe I'm shining a light on them and saying, hey, try this game. So that's definitely part of what I want to do. I think I've mentioned on prior videos, it's been quite strange for me to move from writing my reviews and taking my time and getting everything just so and running a website on Squarespace. Moving from that to YouTube has been, it's been an experience. At first, I wasn't very comfortable speaking on a microphone. But like anything, the more you do it, the more you get comfortable, and it now feels a lot more natural to just talk and get my opinions out there. I know sometimes I don't come across the best on a microphone, but this is my voice, and you either love it or you hate it. This is me. There's been a story brewing now for a couple of months in my head, and it keeps coming in different forms, but it basically circles around Rockstar and the upcoming GTA 6. Now, I've played all the original GTA games, and I've loved them, and Rockstar make incredible games. There's nobody else like Rockstar, is there? And I think Red Dead Redemption 2 in particular is definitely one of my favourite games of all time. The attention to detail, the immersion, the characters, the way the game physics work, everything about that game is just, absolutely exquisite. Similarly, GTA 5, the story part, not the online part, but the story itself and the way that world kind of unfolds and the systems and what you can do and the freedom. Again, GTA 5 was an absolute milestone in interactive games, being able to just go out there and dive in the ocean and swim down and get attacked by sharks or, get involved with the in-game stock trader, that kind of stuff, and actually influence it by in-game events. The game, as well as all the physics and the car chases, the game is just on another level. And that's what Rockstar do, isn't it? They make these incredible immersive games. And yet, everything around Rockstar I find to be deeply troubling in terms of how they handle themselves, the things that they're pushing, the way they're trying to change the games industry. I mean, I actually have quite a funny analogy for Rockstar. Imagine a guy who makes pies. He makes the best pies in the world. And he's a bit like Willy Wonka. He goes off to his factory. You don't see him for like 10 years. And then he comes out with a new pie every 10 years. And he walks out onto the stage and everyone's like clamoring to get a view of this pie and get a taste of it. And he just pitches the first one down onto the crowd, smacks them into their faces with the pie. Complete and utter disregard for the fans and the people who want to like taste his food. He knows it's the best tasting food in the world, and it lands on the floor, and everyone's trying to get it off the floor and scrape it up because they just want to taste this amazing pie. And it's degrading, and it's just such a shitty way to do things. But they know that people will do it because they want to taste this amazing pie. And then they walk off laughing back into their factory, and then their pies start rolling out and people buy them normally. But I feel like that's like Rockstar. They know they've got these amazing products and people are clamoring to buy them. And so they use this position of power to change how the industry works and to basically just do whatever the hell they want. And it feels like a massive FU to the fans and the gamers. I'm also disappointed with how Rockstar, they don't ever really support the games that are not the best at the moment. So like Red Dead Redemption 2 had an online component, and it could have been so good. They could have supported it so well, and it could have been like almost like an online community. But because it wasn't making as much money as GTA Online, they just almost like abandoned it overnight. And a lot of fans who had invested time were like, what the hell, guys? We thought with all the money and the resources you guys have made over the years that supporting this community would be like a no-brainer, but they just didn't, did they? They just let it slide away. And then in addition, like last year I made a video on, I think it was a Steam sale, and there was certain games in there. And of course, Red Dead Redemption 2 is usually in them Steam sales, like a really discounted rate. And so I included that in my video. It's like a 20-second clip of one of the trailers. And of course, Take-Two Interactive is straight in there with a copyright claim for a video that had like, 6% of like content of their video. No sound, just images of their game. And they will claim the entire video based on that. And they do it apparently quite a lot with a lot of content creators. Anyone shows anything of their content that comes under fair use, they don't care. They're straight in there. So I've decided I do want to review GTA 5 before GTA 6 comes out, just like a last kind of like a look at the game and what it did, because it did change quite a lot of things. And I've decided that if they do copyright claim anything on that video, I'm going to fight it this time, because I'm just sick of Rockstar's bullshit. And then just to round off my rant about Rockstar, Strauss Zelnick just recently came out and basically said, well, we're all heading towards cloud gaming anyway. This is the future, so kind of like just get used to it. And as I will cover in this video and many other videos, I hope, cloud gaming is, in my opinion, the end of gaming. If we give over all of that power to the companies on cloud gaming, games as we know it and the games industry as we know it is basically over. Once the companies get the entire pie to control, I'm obsessed with pies today, but yeah, there are worse things to be obsessed by. But yeah, once we give them all that power, they will abuse that position of power. I promise you they will. Prices will go up, games will get removed. There are certain games that will just not exist anymore, and there will be nothing we can do about it. But right now, we have the hardware on our side of things. We control our consoles to a limited degree. We control our PC to a much greater degree. We have the hardware, and we can fight back now. We have a position now where we can say, no, we're not going to engage with cloud gaming. We're not going to give you that power. Because we know, based on prior experiences, like when Sony removed films from people's libraries, and don't even give a refund option. They just remove them and that's it. And yet when people bought those films, they clicked on a button that said buy. Now, in my opinion, when you click something that says buy, you should own it. Now, we know we don't. We know now from experience that these are just license agreements and we're just kind of renting them. The governments need to come in and help us, because this is where the change needs to happen. The buy button needs to mean buy. And when we buy that product, we have a digital version of that film or game that is untouchable and transferable to any other media platform that we want to put it on. We own it digitally like a untouchable rock. So another thing that's been in the news recently is what a lot of people are referring to as the Rampocalypse. and that is the absolute squeeze on resources for making new technology. Now, obviously, PC gaming and consoles and any other technology that uses RAM, they're all affected by this resource. And it turns out now that a lot of these big companies like Samsung and the other two, they're basically selling off most of this resource to the highest bidder prior to the year even starting. And so now for the next 2 to 3 years, we're looking at massive shortages and massive price hikes on all technology that includes RAM. And for me personally, I think this is criminal. I think a lot of the governments in the world should be paying more attention to this and saying, hey, this is like, it's not like water or air, but our technology and the technology we use in our worlds for things like driving cars and running satellite systems, it's increasingly important. And so these companies are playing loose and fast with that technology. And all for this drive to build these massive data centers so they can be the first to, create super intelligence and these new AI models. I'm not even going to get onto the fact that they're now escaping onto the internet and hacking other companies. But yeah, it's just like, what are you doing? These governments, including mine, need to step in and say, hey, like this, that you can't be doing this. There is one company in all this I do feel genuinely sorry for, and that's Valve. They have the worst timing in the world. They once tried the Steam machine and it fell on its face. It just didn't work out. This time they seem to put a lot more time and effort into thinking how it's going to work and how it's going to look, what's going to be inside the machine. And so a couple of months ago, they unveiled their Steam frame, their Steam machine, and their Steam controller. And it all looked great. It all looked really positive. Obviously, we know now the Steam controller is out, and that's a really nice piece of kit. The Steam machine was going to be a really nice way for people to get into PC gaming. And then the RAM apocalypse just hits at the absolute worst possible time. And now all the prices are shooting up. And people now are legitimately saying the Steam machine is just not a viable product anymore. Now, I think it still is, but it's lost a lot of its appeal by being a lot more expensive. So, yeah, I do feel really sorry for Valve. And obviously, they couldn't have seen this coming. So, it's just one of them things, isn't it? But saying that, I'm still very excited to see what the Steam frame can do. This is basically like the next version of the Steam Index, and it's also got this standalone capability. So not only can it play VR games, well, some VR games standalone, it can also act as a full PC VR headset. And in addition to that, it can also play flat screen games in like a big screen inside the actual VR headset. So you can imagine you can be sat in bed playing, like your 2D games based on like a massive great big screen on the back of your bedroom, or, wherever you are, on a plane, on the beach, or just about wherever. So I just wanted to mention Sony as well before I finish ranting about the different companies. And yeah, Sony are just baffling at the moment. They've basically won. They're in this position of power. Xbox is on its way out, and Sony are the big console vendor at the moment. They could do anything they wanted, but now we're seeing the real Sony. Now they've got a position of power. Now we're seeing what they really want to do. So they're obviously moving now to get rid of physical media. So as of 2028, if you've not heard, Sony are getting rid of all physical discs. So that's it now. It's almost the end of physical media. And this will have some negative effects in a few ways. I think the main one is a lot of younger people who don't have a full-time job, who are just maybe at school still, and they want to buy games or rent games. When physical media exists, a game that's been out for 2 or 3 years, it can end up in a used sale in a shop like CEX, and they can go pick it up for a few quid, and that's them being able to play that game and then lend it to their friend. And Sony do not want that. Sony want a walled garden where they control every single part of that equation. So if you want to buy a game in a sale, they do have sales, but their version of a sale is a game that's been like £80 will now be, say, £50 for a couple of days. That's their version of a sale. But a kid at school with pocket money just can't afford that. And also the second big part is the legacy of games. Games that exist beyond when Sony or whoever decide to switch them off or remove them from their servers. Having a physical copy of a game gives people power. Gives people the power to own that game and keep it forever as long as that physical media still exists. Now, sure, cartridges can get broken or discs get scratched, but if you look after them, they can last for a very long time. And I do worry that a lot of games that are just not seen as relevant by these big companies, are just going to up and disappear. So I've always been a big opponent to piracy, and I've always made sure I've bought all my games properly, because I feel like if I start to pirate games, the people who make them don't make any money, and that is not a fair thing to do. That's theft. But the way I see it, if these companies keep doing this and just erasing games from existence, they really are just pushing people towards piracy. Because if people are actually buying products and then they're just being taken off them with no, like recourse or refunds, as far as I'm concerned, that company is stealing from that customer. Like if you bought a car and then a couple of months later, or say 2 years later, that person came to your driveway and just like got in the car and drove off with it saying, look, you've had your time with it now, we're taking it back. I mean, you call the police and have them arrested for theft. So moving forward onto some more positive stuff, let's look at what we've got to look forward to for the rest of the year. So coming in at the end of the month, we've got Star Wars Zero Company, and this looks like a really nice mix of like Star Wars IP mixed with the really good parts of XCOM. And it's actually got a few XCOM developers in the company, so I'm very interested to see how this one turns out. And then just looking at September alone, it's absolutely stacked. Okay, so we've got Blood of the Dawnwalker, which is basically like Witcher 3 mixed with vampires in like a cause and effect type thing. You've got like a certain amount of time or days to do certain amount of things, and the game has a lot of different avenues as well, so you can even fail the main quest and the game will carry on ticking over. So yeah, really interested to see how that pans out. We've also got Phantom Blade Zero, which is out on the 9th of September, and then we've got Control Resonance out on the 24th of September. However, the really big one for that month, for me personally, is going to be Valheim 1.0. This game has been in early access now for a few years, and it is an absolute giant in this genre. It's absolutely packed full of content, and I mean, in theory, could keep people going for like months and months. Now, of course, the next month we've got another massive survival game, crafting game coming out called Enshrouded, as well as all the other games coming out that year in terms of like No Rest for the Wicked, and obviously you got GTA 6 coming out at some point, and then yeah, it's just an absolutely mental year. And it makes me laugh because at some point I was trying to plan another Crimson Desert run, but given the amount of games coming out now, there's just no chance. So I'm going to pencil it in for next year. And I think that'll do it, guys, for this campfire. Thanks very much for staying till the end if you did. I appreciate any comments or any feedback. If you think this video is going to work or not, this is my first kind of like rant stroke campfire. It's just like getting industry stuff out there, talking about it, and hopefully having a discussion with you guys in the comments. I would love to get some people on, some of my friends maybe who are also gamers, and make it more of a podcast like I said. But for now, yeah, that's it. Take care, and I'll see you all soon.